The issue we were learning about last week that we're continuing tonight is the pasuk Shema Yisroel Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. That the Gemara says that what's the origin of the pasuk Shema Yisroel? That when Yaakov Avinu was saying goodbye to his children and he wanted to reveal to them when Mashiach is going to come, and the Shechina departed, so Yaakov suspected that perhaps one of his children is not in order, things are not good. This is why the Shechina left. As it turned out, the reason the Shechina left is because you're not supposed to reveal when Mashiach is coming. So Yaakov Avinu turns to his children, he's laying on his bed, in his deathbed, and he wants to tell them something, and all of a sudden the Shechina departs, and he gets very, very concerned, very distraught, and he says to his sons, are you all the way you appear? Is any one of you duplicitous? Anybody here two-faced? Maybe some of you have thoughts of Avodah Zarah and so forth. So they said to him, Shema Yisroel Avinu. Listen, Yisrael, our father, Adeshem Elokeinu Adeshem Echad. This is what it says in Gemara. So the source of the pasuk Shema Yisroel was actually said by the Shvatim to Yisrael Avinu. And the Medrash added to this that Dafka Yaakov Avinu was Eicha, that we should say his name in Shema Yisroel as opposed to Shema B'nei Avraham, Shema B'nei Yitzchak, and Shema B'nei Yaakov, because Yisroel was the patriarch who was extreme more than the others apparently, who was very concerned with the chinuch of his children. He wanted all his children to be tzaddikim, and they in fact were. And this is why Yaakov Avinu was Eicha, that his name is mentioned in the Shema Yisroel. I also mentioned to you last week, if you recall, that there's a Rabbenu Bechaye that writes that the word Yisroel is a reference to Yaakov and to Yitzchak and to Avraham. In other words, Avraham Avinu's name was Avraham, Yitzchak Avinu's name was Yitzchak, Yaakov Avinu's name was Yaakov, and all three of them are called Yisroel. There is such a Rabbenu Bechaye. But here the Medrash said, no, Yisroel was Eicha, that his name should be mentioned in the Shema because of his Mesiras Nefesh, that his children should all be frum. And then we got into the discussion proper. What is the meaning of Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad? God who is our God, the God is one, why is there the duplicity? So Rashi said, because now he's our God, and when Mashiach comes, he's going to be the God of the whole world. The Ebenezer gave us some philosophy about precise names and imprecise names. Thank you very much. We had a very interesting point from the Rambam. I'm just summarizing last week's class, if you haven't noticed. The Rambam said that normally Moshe Rabbeinu would say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokecha or Hashem Elokeichem. Why did he say Hashem Elokeinu? So it's interpreted by the Mefarshim of the Rambam, because Moshe Rabbeinu was trying to tell to the Jewish people that when it comes to the Eivish, they were all equal. Moshe Rabbeinu and the rest of Klal Yisrael are all exactly the same. Then we discussed the Sipurnu, who said that Shema means, Shema Lashon Avona, Shema means to meditate and to understand that Hashem is not just the creator of the world and he's off someplace else, but Hashem is involved in the world. And even though it seems like there are Elokim, there are other forces that seem to govern the world, Hashem Elokeinu, our God, is Hashem Echad, is the only one with real power, and only He should we daven to. And also we had a Tur who said Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem goes on the three of us, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. This is a 4 minute and 33 second recapitulation of last week's hour and 4 minutes and 33 seconds. We're going to now continue and read a Rambam. Okay, the Rambam is in the stack that I handed you on page 2. Okay, on page 2. As it'll turn out, you're going to see this in a moment, we're going to have an interesting difference between the Rambam and the Ramban, between Maimonides and Nachmanides. The issue at hand is going to be, is Shema Yisroel a separate mitzvah? Pashas V'Aschan, on last week's Pasha, right? The Kriyas HaTorah that we had yesterday in Shul, we read the 10 Commandments. God Almighty introduces Himself to the Jewish people, and He says, I am your God that took you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. Right? That's a pasuk in last week's Pasha. A few psukim later it says, Shema Yisroel, listen and pay attention and think about a Jew. And the Shema Elokeinu, the Shema Echad, God is one. So Nachmanides, Rambam, holds that this is one mitzvah. And that Shema Yisroel is simply explaining Anochi. In the Ten Commandments, it says, Anochi Hashem Elokecha. So the pasuk is explaining what is the meaning of Anochi Hashem Elokecha, that the Shema Elokeinu, the Shema Echad. This is what says in Rambam. Rambam, however, holds that there are two separate mitzvahs, and right now we're going to begin to read a Rambam. Okay, let me say what I just said in other words, okay? There are two commandments that we have in the Torah that relate to Hashem, and they're both in Parshas Voschanan. The first of the Ten Commandments, the first one of the Sedes HaDibris, is to believe in Hashem. And the second one is our pasuk, Shema Yisroel, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. And we will now embark on a study of what is the difference between these two mitzvahs. Okay? So if you have page 2, there's an arrow at the bottom of the page near a 7, and I'm going to read the Rambam. Shema Yisroel, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Quote, this is the first words of the whole Sefer Rambam. Yeseda is the foundation of all foundations. V'amud HaChochmas, and the pillar of all wisdom is Leida, to know. Sheyesh Sham Matzei Rishon, there is a first cause. A first cause means the world did not happen by itself, nor is the world a world begetting a world, begetting a world, begetting a world ad infinitum. There's a beginning. Right? There's a start. And this start doesn't have a start. The start always was. That's the Taich. Sheyesh Sham Matzei Rishon, a first cause. The translation of a first cause is that the first cause does not have a cause. It is an Eibishter that was not created. And he gives reality to all that is real. Now, before we continue, because of page confusions, everybody understands the first words of this Rambam. Yeseda is V'amud HaChochma, the foundation of all foundations and the pillar of all wisdom, is Leida Sheyesh Matzei Rishon, to know that there is a first cause. This is a very important word, because all of the Jewish theologians argue you cannot command a person to believe. It doesn't make any common sense. Tell a person to believe. He says, I don't believe you. Right? If you come to a person and say, believe in God, and you say, okay, that means you believe in God who commanded you to believe in God. Therefore, emunah, the notion of belief, faith in God, cannot be a mitzvah. It has to be a pre-mitzvah. Or as we like to call it, for reasons we're not getting into at the moment, it's called a super mitzvah. It's higher than the mitzvahs. There is no mitzvah to believe in God. Not that it's not important. It's all important. It's the core, it's the essence of Yiddishkeit. So the Rambam holds that the first mitzvah is not to believe in God, but Leida. Hashem commanded us to understand, to learn about Hashem and understand to the best of our limited abilities, which is very limited, about Hashem and what it means that there is a creator. So the first mitzvah is Leida, to know Hashem Matzei Rishon, there's a first cause. V'hu mamtzi kol nimtzei, creates all that exists. V'chol hanimtzayim, and everything that exists. Mishamayim, from the heavens. Now turn to page 7, okay? V'aretz, and the earth. Uma shebinei, what's in between. Lo nimtzu, have no existence. Ella, only me'amitas himatzah, from the truth of Hashem's existence. It's a mitzvah to study and understand what it means that Hashem created the world, and our reality is because of Him. If a person is going to entertain the thought that that Hashem does not exist, or Hashem is not an existential existence, nothing else can have real existence. What this means, it's a secret. I'm not going to tell you. The secrets of the Rebbe. Alternatively, if it's going to enter your mind, nothing exists besides for Hashem. Hashem will continue to exist. Hashem is not going to disappear if creation doesn't exist. In other words, it's one way. We need Him, and He doesn't need us. To say that in fancier words, He's our creator. but He's not a creator. You understand? He made us. But He is not a creator. Meaning to say that if He doesn't make anything, He doesn't disappear. Because His existence does not need us. We need Him. And therefore, Hashem is called Matzei Rishon, the first cause. He makes everything else exist. He gives whatever reality we have, He gives us. If He doesn't exist, we cannot exist. But if we don't exist, He has no dependency upon us. Now this sounds like such a simple and obvious and logical statement, but it's actually rather important. And in the world of people who think they're smart, this is a very big issue. The definition of Hashem is not that He made the world. The definition of Hashem is that He exists and nobody made Him. That's the definition. It's called Mitzvah Matzmusa. He made Himself, which is a nice way of saying He always existed. That's all. The fact that He made us doesn't define Him, it's a byproduct of Him. And we continue. I'm 4 lines into this first column at the bottom of page 7. Shekol anim tzoyim tzrichim loy. All of us need Him. V'hu baruch hu, and He, blessed be He, einei tzarech lahem, He doesn't need us. V'lo le'echad mehem, He doesn't need any of us. Lefichach, consequently, ein amita say, the truth of Hashem is different, ki amita zachas mehem, than our truth. What makes us true? That Hashem allows us to be true. What makes Hashem true? That He's true. There's a difference between being true because the Eibishter says, I want you to be real, and being real because you're real. The Eibishter is true not because we voted Him in, He's absolutely the truth. Hu shanavi yemed, it says in the Pasuk, V'adeshem Elokim emes, God Almighty is the God of emes. Hu levadei ha'emes, He's the only truth. Ve'ein la'acher emes ka'amita soy. Nothing else is true like He is true. V'hu sha'teira yemed, as the Torah says, Ein oid milvadei, there's nothing besides for Him as true as He is. In other words, the Rambam's translation of the words Ein oid milvadei is that Ein sham motzi emes. There is nothing else that exists that's true milvadei besides for Him kamoisei. That's true like He is true. If I had 4 hours, we could talk about truth, but I don't have 4 hours. So we're going to keep reading. So the Rambam says the first mitzvah in Torah is a commandment to understand that we have a Creator, and what it means that He's a Creator. We need Him, He doesn't need us. He's true and we're true if He wants us to. Continues the Rambam. Hamatzei hazeh, this Eibishter, hu elokei ha'olam v'aden kol haaretz, is the God of the world and the master of the earth. What is the significance? The God of the world and the master of the earth. What is the significance of these words? The significance of these words I already discussed with you last week is it's not a big deal to believe in God the Creator. Most Goyim believe in God as the Creator. It is an entirely different thing to believe in God the Master. The Master of the world. The difference between the Creator of the world and the Master of the world. The Creator of the world means He made it. And now He's busy making another world. Whatever it is, He's in retirement. The Master of the world means He's involved right now. The Rambam says He's not just a God, but He's the Master. Adain kol ha'aretz, He's the Master of the earth. V'hu, and He's involved. Hamanig ha'galgal, He makes the heavens rotate. He makes the sky spin. Be'keach she'ein leketz v'tachlis, with a continuity that has no end. Be'keach she'ein lehefsek, with a power that has no limit. Because sha'hagalgal seiv of tamid, because the universe is in perpetual motion. Top of the second column now. The EF shesh yosef b'li mesabav, it cannot be in motion without somebody moving it. V'hu baruch hu ha'mesabav oiseh, Hashem is making the heavens move, but b'lo yad u'b'lo guf. Hashem is making the heavens move, and He has neither a hand nor a body. Now, what does this mean? What does the Rambam mean to say when Hashem is making everything happen, but He doesn't have hands, doesn't have a body? What does this mean? This is a very important point to understand, and that is, there's a physical law that says, and this physical law actually is written in Sifrei Machshava, in Jewish theology, hundreds of years before Newton. One of the laws of motion says that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. When two physical things meet, so there is mass times inertia, whatever, mass times Inertia. Inertia is mass times something else. I don't speak English so well. But the two bodies are moving at each other at a certain speed, multiplied by a certain heaviness. And then when they hit each other, they bounce back. And the effect of each one on the opposite is precisely inverse to the opposite effect on itself. When two things bang into each other, the impact is equal. Each one touches and affects the other in an inverse way. It's just a physical law. In the Lashon of Chachmei HaMachshava, in Jewish theology, this is called Kol Meinia Misnanea Ba'atzmai. You know what that means? I cannot make you move unless I'm moving. That's the Newtonian law, written 600, 800 years ago. Kol Meinia Misnanea Ba'atzmai. If I am making something else move, I must be in motion. Something that is stationary cannot affect motion of something else. It's a physical law. The Eibishter is the exception to this rule. The Eibishter creates the world. Right? The Eibishter creates the world. He keeps the world in perpetual motion, but he has no hand and he has no body. What does that mean, he has no hand and he has no body? It means that the Eibishter makes everything happen, but what's happening in the world is not happening to him. Hashem makes the whole creation happen, but the creation does not have an equal and opposite effect on him. He pushes the world isn't pushing him back. He energizes the creation is not having an inverse influence on him. It's one way, which is physically impossible. Right? In the physical world, it's impossible for two things to meet and one to affect the second without the second affecting the first. The Eibishter governs his world without a hand and without a body. He affects us and the world doesn't affect him. This is called Yesh Me'ayin. It's called magic. There's no intimacy, there's no closeness, there's no relativism, there's no erech between the body and the nivra, between the creator and the creation. So there's a lot of contradictions here. On the one hand, Hashem is Adain Kol Haaretz, he's involved and he's engaged in the world. And on the other hand, the nature of his involvement and engagement in the world is such that he affects the world and the world has zero effect on him. And we're going to continue to read the Rambam. Okay, now, second line from the top of the second column at the bottom of page 7. It says Rambam v'yediyas dov hazeh mitzvah saseh. To know that, to understand Hashem, not to believe in Hashem. To understand Hashem. To understand Hashem means to understand that He exists. To understand that there's no Hashem before Hashem. If there's a Hashem before Hashem, then Hashem is not Hashem. The translation of Hashem is He's the first cause, nobody made Him. And that He is the reason we are. But we are not the reason He is. He doesn't disappear if we disappear. And His impact on the world is constant, and the world has zero impact on Him. He makes us exist, He keeps us in motion, and yet it's not affecting Him inversely. Says Rambam that all of this is a mitzvah to say in the Torah. Shene'eman. It says in the 10 Commandments. If anybody would like, you can come and sit here. Anoichi Hashem Elokecha. God Almighty commanded us. He introduces Himself to us, right? At Har Sinai. Hashem introduces Himself to Klal Yisrael. He says, "Hello, Jews. Anoichi. I'd like to introduce myself to you. I am God, and I took you out of Egypt and the house of bondage, and I want you to serve me." So the first mitzvah is for a Jew to acknowledge that there is an Hashem. And again, the mitzvah is not to believe. We all believe. The mitzvah is to try and understand that Rambam Paskins, and of course Hasidus Chabad, makes this one of the centerpieces of our philosophy. That's not enough to believe in Hashem, you have to try and understand it. Now, if anybody entertains the idea, there's a second God, besides for Hashem, he is violating a negative commandment. As it's written, upon it, you're not allowed to entertain the possibility of there being a second God. And he is denying the very core of Judaism. Believe in one God and trying to understand the truth of one as opposed to more than one is ha'ikir, ha'godol, shahakal talabay. All of the Yiddishkeit leans on this principle, and if one has a problem with this principle, he's got a principle with the whole Yiddishkeit. Stop. This is the mitzvah of Anoichi Hashem Elokecha Asher Tasicham Eretz Mitzrayim Beis. The first of the 10 Commandments is God introduces Himself to us. He says, "Hello, I'm God. I'd like you to get to know me. Study me. Try and understand. Now we continue. Elakazeh, this Eibishter, Echadu, he is one. Ve'inei Shnayim, he isn't two. V'lo Yaiser al Shnayim, nor is he not more than two. Ela Echad, he is one. Now, the Rambam says is one Hashem and not two Hashems. Okay, that sounds pretty obvious. It frankly doesn't require a genius to figure out. But the Rambam explains, what do I mean that there is one Hashem? So he continues and he says as follows. Lai echad, ela echad, the nature of his unity is, she'en ki yichudai, the nature of his oneness is such that there is no oneness, echad min ha'achadim and emtoim ba'olam, there is no concept of one in the world which compares to how he is one. And he explains, Lai echad kemin, shu kail l'achadim harve, you wouldn't call him one in terms that he represents a certain category. V'lai echad keguf, nor is he one like a body is one. Because how is a body one? A body is one, shu nechlak lemachalokes ulektavis. A body has parts, right? There's a head, there's arms, there's feet, there's inside, there's outside, there's higher, there's lower, and so forth. The nature of his oneness is Ela yichud, the nature of Hashem's oneness is Shen yichud achar k'maisa ba'olam. Nothing in the creation is one like he is. Okay? Okay, I'll keep reading. Ilu hayu elakuyos harvei. If God forbid we were to say that there's more than one, hayu gufim megaviyos, we would have to say that what separates one elakah from a second elakah is a body. You say that there's two gods. It's a stupid postulation. So you would have to ask yourself the question, what's this? Where does one end and the other one begin? You would have to give them some kind of a body. Mipnei, turn the page. She'ein hanimnim hashavim b'mtziyasam nifradim zeh mizeh. When you have two things that are exactly equal, they cannot be separated because of their minds and their souls if they're exactly equal. If you say there's two Hashems, each Hashem is perfect. Two perfects is two times the same thing. If you have two times the same thing, you have to say each one has a body. It says Rambam, if the Eibush would have a physical body, you'd have a limit. Everybody has a limit. Anything that has a limit to its size has a limit to its power. Hashem's power is infinite. It never finishes. He's constantly involved in the creation, and the nature of his involvement is, as we said before, he touches the world does not touch him. Therefore, in whatever power the Eibush uses in creating the world is not physical at all, or in any type of way connected to some kind of a form. If he has no body, he doesn't have the body-like phenomena. What is the meaning of body-like phenomena? To be separate from something else. Therefore, there has to be only one Hashem. Now, I don't want to get too caught up in this, but the Rambam is giving us now a second mitzvah. The first mitzvah is to know that there is Hashem. And the first mitzvah includes to know that Hashem is one and not two. The second mitzvah is to know that this Hashem that exists is one. One means he has no body, he has no parts. He doesn't have a brain and a heart, doesn't have a right side and a left side, doesn't have a middle and a beginning and an end. Hashem is a point. He's an akud, he's a pintele. Every piece of the Eibishter is the whole Eibishter. And the whole Eibishter is in every piece of the Eibishter. There is no division, there's no detail in Hashem whatsoever. In more involved Sfarim, they would say, you can't even say that Hashem is a Chacham. You can't even say that Hashem is a Chastan, Hashem is wise or kind, because those are faculties. You can only say that since Hashem is everything, he doesn't lack Chokhmah and he doesn't lack Chesed. So the Rambam says, and let's finish the shtikela, says the Rambam, this is the second commandment. What is the commandment? That we have a mitzvah to believe in Echad, in the oneness of Hashem. So the Rambam tells us that we have two mitzvahs. The first mitzvah we learn from Anochi Hashem Elokecha, from the Ten Commandments, and the second mitzvah we learn from Shema Yisroel. What's the difference? The difference is the Anochi Hashem Elokecha introduces the Eibishter to us. Shema Yisroel take away from the Eibishter any kind of complexity, and it indicates, it underscores absolute oneness, absolute unity. Hashem is absolutely plain and simple. I want to add another very important point to this discussion, which is also true in Rambam. Although the Rambam doesn't mention it here, he mentions it someplace else. When we say Hashem, the truth is we discussed it last week. When we say Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, there's only one God, what we really mean that there's only one master. Right? Not there's one God as opposed to not two gods. There's one master as opposed to two masters. Now what's the difference between saying one God or two gods, or one master or two masters? The difference is, if you say one God or two gods, you're talking about creators. Is there one creator or two creators? Only one creator. One master as opposed to two masters is saying that who runs our life right now? Who's in charge of our life right now? One God. There are no competing forces. There's no competition for who's in charge. The Eibush is the only Baba Boss. Hashem Echad means Hashem is one. He has no body-like parts. And it also means that everything that happens in His world, He does personally. Now, you must understand that this is not so simple. Why not? Because, in the ancient world, they used to believe in stars and constellations, but we got smarter. We believe in money, right? They used to believe in all kinds of forces. We don't believe in the astrological signs and stuff like that, but we certainly believe in the laws of nature and the predictable patterns, that science is able to deduce from the creation and predict and say, listen, these are scientific facts that follow scientific laws that can be predicted 100% of the time. According to Torah, Hashem Echad means that each time a natural event occurs, God did it. Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad doesn't only mean there's one God, one creator, there's one master. It looks like there are many masters. It looks to us, right? Who's my master? Who's my master? My boss, right? If you would only pay me, then he'd be my boss. Yeah. Right? My boss is my master. If I don't behave, I lose my job, and it's going to be terrible. And it's not a joke. It's not funny at all. It's very serious, as we all know, right? But the emes is that the Eibishter pays us, and the Eibishter sustains us, and this is Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. So the Rambam says you have two mitzvahs. One is to understand Hashem, and the other is to understand the singular mastery of His creation, the singular nature of Hashem Himself, which is what he discusses here. And in a slightly different place, the Rambam discusses this point that I'm mentioning to you now, that He's the only master of the world. And I want you to know that without getting too involved, this may be the difference between the chiyuv of a frum goy and a yid. Frum goy have to believe in Hashem also. But it's arguable. Arguable means I don't want to get into it. That they have the mitzvah of Anochi Hashem Elokecha, to understand Hashem. But Achdas Hashem, the idea that everything happens directly from Hashem, and there's no laws of nature, and there's no boss, and there's no president, there's no vice president, and so on. This a goy has no chiyuv to believe. This may be the difference in the emunah of a yid and the emunah of a goy who is following the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Neach. So this is the Rambam's commentary on Shema Yisroel. That is the second mitzvah in Torah. Okay? Next.
But it said Yismach Yisrael ve'osav.
Yeah. So what does it say in Tanya Sof Perek Lamed Gimel? Take a look inside. Tikhi Tanya, Tistakli b'Sof Perek Lamed Gimel. When I don't have an answer, I quote a source. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm relying on the fact that no one's going to look it up. I could have said Zoyach Chelik Dalet too. No. Take a look at Tanya Sof Perek Lamed Gimel. Take a look inside. The next is Rabbenu Bechaye. Rabbenu Bechaye begins on page 9. Okay? The Rabbenu Bechaye is quite extensive, although I have to tell you, he has an ability to be far more extensive than he's being here. We're not going to read all of the Rabbenu Bechaye, we're going to jump around. I'm beginning on the right side of the page where there's an arrow and a number 8. Okay, we're reading Rabbenu Bechaye. Shema Yisroel v'Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. What the question is, why doesn't it say Shema Yisroel Hashem Echad? Right? Or at least say Hashem Elokeinu Echad. Why did it say Shema Yisroel Hashem Elokeinu and then Hashem Echad? Remember this kasha? And we had a variety of different terutzim. The Tur says that it goes on Avraham and it goes on Yitzchak and it goes on Yankif. We may get back to this later on. There are many other explanations that we've already had. Rashi says Hashem Elokeinu means now He's only our God, and Hashem Echad, when Mashiach comes, will be the God of the whole world. Rabbenu Bechaye says a very conventional thing. So derech hapshat, on the most elementary level, simplest level possibly imaginable. Maski hiskir shloisha shemes. The fact that we have 3 names of Hashem, Hashem, Elokeinu, Hashem, and then Echad. Hashem, Elokeinu, Hashem. She'ilu Amar Hashem Echad. If it would say Shema Yisrael, Hezachai and Yid, listen Jew, Hashem Echad, God is one, everyone would say, of course God is one. The one I believe in. Haya Pischem Pele Yom Yisraelim, Goyim could say, Sha'al Yirah Son, Amar Kain. Whatever the guy believes in, yeah, there's one God, mine. Shehu Nikra Hashem L'daitem, their interpretation of what Hashem is. Valkein Hutzrach Leimer Alekeina, the Hashem Alekeina, our God. God as we believe in Him. Why? We're such big egos, we're such big smart people. It was given over to us from father to son, all the way back to Avraham Avinu. The way we were taught about the Eibush, the Hashem Elokeinu, Kleimer Elokei Yisrael, the God of the Jewish people. Hashem Echad, that's the true God, and He's the only God. V'chein, moreover, Ilu Amar Hashem Elokeinu Echad. It wouldn't say Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. It would simply say Hashem Elokeinu, God who is our God, is Echad. Hayapischein Per Le'umais Loimar. The Goyim would say, Emisu, it's true. Kelekei Yisrael hu levade nikra echad. God, the God of the Jewish people, is the only one who's called one. But Gam Elokeinu she'anu kaidem Hashem hu echad k'mayke. Their God is of one, the only God, and our God is the only God. Lekach, says Rabbenu Bechaye, this is on the lowest level of pshat. Hutzlach leim the Teda say Hashem Elokeinu, the God that is our God. Hashem Echad is the only God for anybody. There is no other God. Not only are we referring to the God of the Jewish people, not only are we saying that the God of the Jewish people is the only God that the Jewish people have, there is no other God besides for the God that gave us the Teda Har Sinai, the God that Avraham Avinu discovered and He taught to the world. That's it. That's enough. This is Rabbenu Bechaye derech hapshat. Okay? Now, at the bottom of page Reish Ayin Hey, the next page is an arrow. I'm showing this to you for purposes of contrast, okay? For just purposes of contrast. V'al derech ha-medrash, the medrash says, Shema Yisroel, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. A Jewish person has to pay attention to the Eibush Achdus. Says the Rabbenu Bechaye, based on the medrash, thank you. His Kira Torah Pasuk, the Torah mentions the Pasuk Shema. Acharei Aseres HaDibris, after the 10 Commandments. L'lamdach, to teach us Shedibur Anoichi Hu HaYichud, that the commandment of Anoichi Hashem Elokecha is the commandment to believe in one God. This line and a half is the Ramban. It's the Nachmanides. The Nachmanides holds that we don't have 2 mitzvahs, we have 1 mitzvah. Rambam holds there's 2 separate mitzvahs. One is to study Hashem, and the second is to study the unity of Hashem. Ramban says they're one and the same. So this line and a half, if you look in the star at the bottom, you'll see that he's quoting Ramban, and there's a source for each opinion in the Chazal. Okay? That the Ramban holds that the first mitzvah in Torah is to know Hashem, but it includes both the knowledge of His existence as well as the knowledge of His unity. And Rambam says they're 2 separate mitzvahs. What's the difference? That's a great question, and I don't know the answer. Okay? And I mentioned this to you last week, so I'll say it quickly. The Ramban has a lot of very interesting... Again, I don't know how many of you have had the good fortune to read Chumash with Mefarshim. Believe me, it's not an easy task, and you need a lot of time and concentration. But the Ramban is an extremely original commentator. A lot of times you read him a Mefarish, and he's essentially a compiler. He collects from other sources. Ramban followed Rashi and followed Even Ezra. So when Ramban came on the scene, there were two classic commentaries. Ramban is not more or the same. He has this unbelievable knack of finding another way to look at things. He's constantly disagreeing with Rashi. It's remarkable. And Ramban has these patterns, these attitudes, these, so to speak, axioms. And one of the things Ramban says is that, he says it in Yisrael also, you have 10 commandments, right? Sefer Dibros. What happened after the 10 commandments? Commentary. The Ramban holds at the end of Parshas Yisrei and the whole of Parshas Mishpatim is commentary on the Aseret HaDibros. He holds the same thing in Vos Chanan. In the Parshas Vos Chanan, the Aseret HaDibros are enumerated. He says after the 10 commandments, Moshe Rabbeinu Pasha explained them. So Ramban holds that Shema Yisroel Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad is the explanation of the mitzvah Anech Hashem Elokecha. While Rambam holds that they're two distinct mitzvahs. You follow? Okay, now let's turn the page. Okay, we'll do it here. We're going off the continental shelf now. Okay, I could wait till later. Might as well get confused right here. Bottom of the page 10 at the right side you have an arrow. Now we're going to study Kabbala, which is of course our favorite subject because we're all experts, because no one knows what they're talking about, so we might as well be experts. Rabbenu Bechaye lived about 700 to 800 years ago. He was a Rishon from the earlier sages, and we believe that the earlier sages had such a divine inspiration. Ruach HaKodesh. Rabbenu Bechaye wrote an exceptional work on Chumash. It's an unbelievably beautiful commentary. If you have to pick one, that's the one to pick. Because what he writes in his introduction, that I'm going to give a commentary on the Chumash, and each pasuk I'm going to explain on 4 levels. Pshat, Medrash, philosophy, and Kabbala. It's very, very inclusive. He quotes from everybody. From Rashi, from Even Ezra, from Ramban, and from others. He compiles every issue that he touches. He explains it on 4 grades, on 4 levels. We're going to read now the Kabbala of the Rabbenu Bechaye. But I have to tell you, you're going to know as much after we finish as we do before we start. So we'll have to talk about it. So let's get to it. Let's explain the pasuk Shema Yisroel Kabbalistically, mystically. Shema Yisroel. What does Shema Yisroel mean? Pay attention, Yid, right? Shema doesn't mean hero. Doesn't mean listen with a stomach ache, right? Shema Yisroel means pay attention, concentrate, focus, engage intellectually. Kaif oznecha Shema, bend your ear and listen. Bepasuk Shema, in this pasuk which teaches us Inyan hayichod ha'amiti, the true concept of the unity of God, hamakubul v'hamutzna, which has been transmitted orally from generation to generation, and is mutzna, it's secretive and hidden, eitzel yodi ha'emes, amongst the knowers of truth. And what is that? B'soid yichod eser sfiras, the mystical secret of the union of the 10 sfiras. Shenes chayavnu, we were commanded liyached es kulam. We don't only have a mitzvah to believe that God is one, we have a mitzvah to believe that the spheres are one. Okay? To make them all into one. We can look at it from the top down. We can look at it from the bottom up. But in any case, in addition to Shema, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, meaning that Hashem is one, Kabbala says we have to also teach that the spheres are one. Okay? Umilas Shema. So now we retranslate the word Shema. What does Shema mean? Shema in the Philip Berbam translation of the Siddur means hero, and it's been copied by everybody else. Shema means to pay attention, to listen, to concentrate, to study. He gives us a very novel translation of the word, which Hasidus actually celebrates. You know what Shema means? Gather together, collect. Shema Yisroel, collect, gather together. Shema miloshen chibur, the word Shema denotes to collect and to gather together. Ke'inyan, like we find in the pasuk, Vayishama Shaul. Shaul was the first king of the Jews, and he mobilized the Jewish people to go to war. So he made an announcement that all the soldiers, all the volunteers, or all the draftees should come forward. The Hebrew word that is used to denote this mobilization is Vayashama. He made an announcement which gathered people. So the Rabbenu Bechaye translates Shema, gather together. Shema Yisroel, collect Yisroel. Lishmeya Ezen Yishme'uli, also this idea of gathering together. Now, before we continue, this pshat that Rabbenu Bechaye brings, that the translation of the word Shema is to gather together, is brought in Hasidus. How does Hasidus translate Shema Yisroel? Hasidus translates Shema Yisroel in a very, very personal and sensitive way. And that is, there are some people, somewhere, none of us of course know any of them, because we're too enlightened and too sophisticated, who suffer from a mental illness called scatter. Now they call it attention deficit disorder. What does scatter mean? They can't concentrate. They're in the middle of doing something, whoop, doing something else. It's called advertisement. It's called living in the big city. It's called turning the pages of a newspaper. It's called doing anything except closing your ears and closing your eyes and saying, quiet! Yeah. Scatter all over the place. A person who's scattered is not everywhere. He's nowhere. A Yid comes to David, maybe the Shema Yisroel. Before you come to God, do me a favor, get yourself together. The piece of you that's in Wall Street, bring them in. The piece of you that's worrying about your children, bring them in. The piece of you that's having some kind of issue with your spouse, bring them in. The piece of you that's bachlal, bored and depressed, bring them in. Get yourself together, and when you're a whole mensch, then you'll connect. Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. That's how Hasidus translates Shema. Gather yourself. But the Rabbenu Bechaye translates, and it's a good translation, I hate to say it. For those people who may know somebody who has scatter, you may share it with them and enlighten them. Because we don't really have use for this. But the Rabbenu Bechaye says Shema means to gather together the Eses Fides. And he says like this: Hashem, Kamay L'cha Hashem. The first Hashem is like L'cha Hashem. And L'cha Hashem, Shu Kail Shalosh Amas Hayenis goes on Chachma Bina Vadas. Right? You don't know what he's talking about? I don't even know what he's talking about. So that's wonderful, right? In Vayevarech David, in davening we say L'cha Hashem HaGedula. Remember? HaGedula, VaGevura, VaTefedes, VaNetzach. Gedula means Chesed, Gevura means Gevura, Tefedes means Tefedes, Netzach means Netzach, Haid means Haid, and Tikail means Yesod, and it says L'cha Hashem HaMelach. So all the 7 midas are stated in that pasuk. Where do you have the Chabad? So the Rabbenu Bechaye says that the word Lecha, Lamed Chaf, Lecha, Havaye goes on the Shalosh Hashanos, on Chabad. Okay? Elokeinu, the divine name Elokeinu, goes on Hagedula v'Hagvura, Chesed and Gevura. Why? I don't know. Okay? Hashem, the second Hashem, is HaTefedes, it's from Midas HaTefedes, Atashim Abinyan, till Malchus. Hashem includes Tefedes, Netzach, Haid, Yesod, and Malchus. And some would say, because it's 5. Then you have to make them all one. I'm not going to get into the technicalities of here. Believe me, the Rabbenu Bechaye knew what he's writing, and he's not oversimplifying. If there's a problem with Rabbenu Bechaye, it's in our interpretation. But basically what he does is he says that in the pasuk Shema Yisroel Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, it discusses not only the idea that Hashem is one, but it discusses also the idea that the Eibishter's spheres are one. And I want to explain this to you briefly because it's a very important idea. I think it's an important idea. And that is like this. Jewish theology means the part of Yiddishkeit that talks about spiritual things. It's called in Hebrew Machshavas Hayadus, Jewish thought, or Hashkafas Hayadus, Jewish theology, that's the right word, I'm sorry, philosophy, theology, is also called choivas halavovis, right? The obligations of the heart. Matters that deal with theoretical stuff, this is the heart. The heart of a Jew has to be locked in to the correct hashkafa, the right way to think and the right way to feel and so forth. So over the last 1,000 years, maybe 1,200 years, many svarim have been written on hashkafa, on choivas halavovis, on machshavas hayahadus, on Jewish theology. Hundreds, thousands of volumes. Each one tells you a unique way to serve Hashem, a unique way to appreciate Hashem, a unique way to connect to Hashem, and so forth and so on. Even though there are thousands of volumes, in general they fall into two categories: the non-Kabbalists and the Kabbalists. The background is, once upon a time, Jews did not ask questions. They were very smart, those who were smart, very studious, very scholarly, and they learned Torah, and they understood Torah better than we'll ever understand in 100 lifetimes. Lahav, they learned other Chochmah also. They learned other areas of knowledge and science and philosophy and so forth. However, anything that touched Hashem, they said, we don't go there. Anything that has to do with the Eibush that they didn't touch. And the attitude was that if it has to do with Hashem, you have to have blind faith. So for hundreds of years you had people who were brilliant in halacha and in Gemara and so forth, and when it came to questions of how does the Eibush to look, they simply never entertained it. What happened was, in the Middle Ages, in the Dark Ages, philosophy went through a resurgence, and people got very involved. I would say that to a great extent the credit for this resurgence of philosophy goes to the Muslims. The Islamic faith appears in the 8th century, the 7th century, the 8th century, and they were into philosophy a lot. B'chlal, in those days, the Muslims were the sophisticated, they were the modern ones. And Europe was primitive, it was third world country, Germany, France, third world countries. That's a fact. And people started to study philosophy. And Yidden studied philosophy too. Jewish people were never told don't study. There was no such thing. Today you're told don't study, but in those days, if there was knowledge to be had, Jews studied it. They knew everything. And philosophy asks questions that Yiddishkeit never asked. It never asked, not because it doesn't have answers, but because you're supposed to have simple faith. And a lot of Jews got into trouble. Does Hashem have hands? Does Hashem have feet? Does in the Chumash Hashem have moods? Can Hashem change his mind? Can Hashem feel bad? Can Hashem have regret? All of these things that we would call anthropomorphic. Anthropomorphic means God is described like a man. Right? The Chumash and the Chazal are full, thousands and thousands of references to the Eibush that make him sound almost human. And it created a big problem. And a lot of Jews lost their emunah because they said Hashem has hands and feet. Aristotle knew that that's impossible. So Yidden started to write Svarim. People like Rambam, like Rab Sadia Gaon, and many others wrote Sifrei Machshava, Jewish theological works that came to answer these questions. And they introduced to Yiddishkeit this whole idea of trying to understand Hashem. Or to say it more accurately, to trying to understand what Hashem is not. Okay? And they came up, they had all kinds of good arguments. Their basic argument, of course, was Dibra Torah Keloshen B'nei Adam. This is an expression from the Gemara. Dibra Torah Keloshen B'nei Adam means Torah speaks in the language of man. When it says in the Chumash Hashem raised his hand, Hashem doesn't have hands. That's foolish. He did an act that in the case of a person would be done by a hand, so the Chumash describes it as raising a hand. Hashem did an act that if a human being would do it, we would call it anger, so the Torah describes Hashem as angry. But Chas v'Shalom to say that he has anger and moods and regret and so forth. And they pounded home, the Gedolei Yisrael drove home the point of one, Hashem has no hands and Hashem has no feet and Hashem has no body, Hashem has no parts and Hashem has no mood, Hashem doesn't exist in time, and so on and so forth. So after Jewish people went through this enormous rattle, enormous shake that came from philosophy, from a goyish source, and many Jews never lost their faith in the interim, The Gedel Yisrael wrote Sfarim to explain philosophically Hashem is absolutely one. You can't understand Hashem at all. Okay, problem solved, right? So as soon as the dust settles, along comes Kabbala. What does Kabbala do? 10 Sfiras. Now Kabbala is Torah. Kabbala comes from Har Sinai, comes from Moshe Rabbeinu. It was passed along to Shema Yisroel and written into the Zohar. And there was a thin trickle of Kabbalah that existed from the beginning of time. So we said, whoa. We just finished solving this terrible, terrible problem that had to do with the idea of Hashem having hands and feet and parts. And we came to the conclusion that He's absolutely one. And any allusion in the Torah to this effect is only a mashal. It's an allegory. Chas v'shalom, Hashem has parts. 10 Sfiras. Kabbala says, you know why Hashem has 10 names? Hashem is called Elokim, Hashem is called Keilah, Hashem is called Tzvakes. It corresponds to the 10 Sfiras. Huge dilemma. Huge problem. Right? After they finally finished resolving this problem in philosophy, along comes Kabbala and creates the problem all over again. And there were a lot of Jewish people who said, what did they say? Kabbala is true, but I don't want to be involved. This is a famous tshuva where one of the Gedolei Yesharim writes, Kabbala is emes. I want to be a child. Ani mispal da ze atinik. Don't confuse me with the facts. I hear it. I'm sure it's true that the 10 names of God correspond to the 10 Sfiras. Alt emes. It's too much for me. I want to be a little kid. This is what happened. The Mekubalim said you must study Kabbala. Because if you don't study Kabbala, you don't know the right kavanot, the right meditations. If you don't know the right meditations, Hashem is not going to answer your prayer. And of course, life has been interesting, it is interesting, and will always be interesting. With this bit of background, let me now tell you what it is that Kabbala adds, and you'll understand what the Rabbenu Bechaye is saying and why it is so important. The difference between no Kabbala and yes Kabbala. Philosophy and Kabbala is simple. In philosophy, there's 2 possibilities. You're God or you're not God. End of discussion. Or to say it more accurately, you're either not God or you're the Eibishter. There's no in between. There's a creator and there's a world. That's all. Hashem made everything. Nothing has any relationship with Him. Nothing is close to Him. Nothing phases Him. Nothing touches Him. Nothing matters to Him. Nothing bothers Him. The biggest question we have about Hashem is why He bothered with the creation. And really, it's very difficult to answer that question. It'll always be difficult to answer that question. Sure. In mysticism, in Kabbalah, they add one tiny little piece to this puzzle. And this tiny piece to this puzzle is extremely important. The piece to the puzzle that Kabbalah adds is called godliness. There's the Eibishter, there's the Creator, there's the creation, there's the world, that's us. And in between there's the light of Hashem. Godliness, Getlechkeit, godliness, the lights of Hashem. Who needs lights of Hashem? What's wrong with saying there's Hashem and there's a world where we have to have lights? There's 1,001 answers to this question. You'll come to the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday classes in the morning, you'll hear about it for 3 weeks. But in 15 minutes we can't do it justice. There's many reasons why Kabbalah introduces us to the concept of godliness. Godliness is not Hashem. It's the light of Hashem. But on the other hand, godliness is not a creation. It's the light of Hashem. The light of Hashem means its entire reality is, if you could have a conversation with the light of Hashem, all the light of Hashem would say is, meet my boss. That's it. The light of Hashem has no self-identity. There's nothing to it. All it is a reflection of Hashem. And I want to give you a compare and contrast. Philosophers talk about angels. Angels are creations. They're things. You're a thing, an angel is a thing. Okay, you're physicals, angels are spiritual. You occupy physical time and space. Angels occupy spiritual time and space. But angels are limited like you. That's what the Gemara says. The angel could do a sin, and they take him out of the bed in Shemayla and they beat him up. As they state in the Gemara, that Matat did something not good. They gave him 60 lashes. We get 40 lashes, he got 60 lashes. And he got fiery lashes too. Okay? Angels are things, they're not people, but they're creations. They're limited. When Hashem uses an angel to do something, Hashem sends Malach Mechal on a shlichus. Malach Mechal is not Hashem. Malach Mechal is not an expression of Hashem. He's a creation like you're a creation. Hashem says to Michal, right now I want you to do what I want. So it says in the Heilige Sfarim that while Michal is busy doing Mishlichus, while he's representing Hashem, he calls himself by Hashem's name. During the mission he's called God, because he loses his ego for God. But before the mission and after the mission, he's himself. The lights of the Eibishter, the Spheres, are not angels, they're not creations, they are simply the lights of Hashem, they're the expressions of the Eibishter. So the Rabbenu Bechaye says that according to Kabbala, we have a mitzvah to understand and to analyze and to study one. Kabbala says it's not enough to study and understand and analyze one, that God is one. We must understand how even though there are 10 lights, those 10 lights are one with the Eibishter, and those 10 lights are one with one another. And chas v'sholem, to study Kabbala and to learn about the Sfiris and come up with the idea that as if there's Rahman Latzan 10 gods. You understand? Since Kabbala talks about godliness, the light of Hashem, and there's 10 lights, Chesed, Gevura, Chochma, Bina, and so forth, and the lights of Hashem are not angels that the Eibishter created to do a mission. They're simply the light of the Eibishter. The Rabbenu Bechaye says the mitzvah of Shema Yisroel Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad is not only to declare and understand that Hashem is one, but to understand that the Sfiris, the essence Sfiris, number one, they're one with Hashem, and number two, they're one with each other. For example, I want you to know that half of Shara Yichud V'Amunah talks about this point. Shara Yichud V'Amunah, chapters 8, 9, and 10, and a little bit in chapter 6 talk about this. Someone's going to say that's not half, it's a third. You're right, I can't count. But the Shara Yichud V'Amunah, there's a lengthy discussion of this very point. He says like this: Hashem has two lights. There's a light of Hashem called Chesed, that creates. There's a light of Hashem called Gevura, that hides. Believing that the 10 Sfiris are one is to say like this, that the power of Hashem that hides and the power of Hashem that reveals are one and the same. It's not two forces that are fighting with one another. There's a part of Hashem, the right hand of Hashem wants to reveal, the left hand of Hashem wants to hide. Havayehu halakim, the light of Hashem of Chesed and the light of Hashem of Gevura are one and the same thing, and therefore, when we look at the world and we don't see the Eibishter, we're not seeing the concealment of the Eibishter, we're seeing the Eibishter. Because the world is an expression of the Eibishter. Okay, good night.